Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. What a crazy start to the week. I woke up this morning to discover 25-year-old pop star Justin Bieber has challenged 56-year-old actor Tom Cruise, who is older than his actual dad, to fight in the octagon. And Conor McGregor wants to host it. Do you ever wake up in the morning and think, am I still dreaming? What's going on? It was almost as if one of those random thoughts that I dreamt up had suddenly just came to life and hit the universe. And then shortly afterwards, I noticed an ageless Keanu Reeves was making a keynote speech at E3 and looked like the coolest guy in the world doing so, leaving me just to simply go, whoa. And Microsoft really do seem to be edging their bets at the moment. We saw more details on Google Stadia last week, which pretty much involved Google saying consoles and PCs are dead. You can now stream your games from a supercomputer in the cloud. But having watched Microsoft's keynote, they seem to be saying we're going to offer cloud gaming and a new shiny Xbox console too, which kind of left me scratching my head as to which side of the fence they're sitting, but I think they're just keeping their options open. But on the flip side, digital and streaming of games means that there is yet another thing that you cannot own, store in a drawer, display on a shelf, or even trade and sell. I'm curious, if you're listening today, are you a digital-only gamer? Or do you cling to physical copies that you can trade in and sell? I'd love to hear which side of the fence you guys are, so please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, or tweet me at Neil C. Hughes and let me know your thoughts on that one. However, we do have a show to do, and I must admit I got a little sidetracked there. And today I'm chatting to the guys at YourParkingSpace, who are an online parking marketplace connecting drivers with parking space owners. And the best way of describing it is like Airbnb, but for car parking. And the platform is essentially making it easier and cheaper for drivers to park their car anywhere across the UK. So when I read about a parking app, an Airbnb hybrid, it's fair to say it captured my attention immediately. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to Canary Wharf in London so you can join me in a conversation with Your Space co-founder, Charles Cridland. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
So my name's Charles Cridland. I'm the co-founder of YourParkingSpace.co.uk, which is a platform that matches up drivers with parking spaces. So very much like a kind of Airbnb for parking, where whatever kind of parking space is empty, you can go online and you can book it on YourParkingSpace.co.uk for an hour, day, week, or month. And yeah, from a personal standpoint, my role in the business is now started off as co-founder and sort of evolved into kind of a bit of a jack of all trades position, and now my role is a operational one, so I oversee the marketing and development and customer service teams.
Now, I must admit, when I first read about an online parking marketplace that connects drivers with parking space owners, a bit like Airbnb for your car, that certainly captured my attention very quickly. But can you tell me more about how the platform actually makes it easier and also cheaper for drivers to park their cars anywhere across the UK?
Yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, to be honest, in its most basic form, the website is simply a shop window. So I guess before the internet, parking just involved drivers driving to a location. As soon as they get to the location, looking around for parking, whether that's an on-street parking meter or a car park, and then more or less having to pay whatever price was on the sign. So the idea behind Your Parking Space is effectively to put all the parking spaces that we can on board, as many as possible, onto the website, show all the features, whether that's CCTV, whether it's secure parking, and obviously, importantly, the price. And then drivers can just go online, put in where they're looking to park or their end destination, and have a look at all the different available parking spaces, whether it's someone's driveway right the way through to a hotel car park and then through to an actual commercial car park. Choose between all the spaces and then book the one that's right for them.
And for the benefit of our international listeners and anyone listening in any part of the world where this problem may or may not exist, can you just help them visualise how finding a parking space in the UK can be incredibly challenging? Because it really can't it? Especially just outside of London, where the car parking costs are just phenomenal, aren't they?
No, exactly, yeah. It was because I'm from London as well. So let's say we take London as an example. So if you were to drive into London now, you'll arrive at your destination, say you want to go to Leicester Square. you'll arrive there, and then if you start looking for a space, you've got one, you have to try and find the car parks, which aren't easy to find because they're multi-story car parks, which are kind of hidden between buildings. Sometimes they're underground. Now, if you can't find a car park, you then drive around the streets looking for somewhere to park, and you've got everything from maximum stay limits. So often you can only park there for 4 hours, which is no good if you're going to the theatre and then going to have dinner afterwards. Then if you miss spaces, you get stuck in one-way system, so you can end up stuck in traffic for 20 minutes whilst you try and make your way back round to look for the bays. Obviously, you've got the congestion charge zones. There's just so many unknowns. And then at the end of all of that, if you do find a space, you just end up paying whatever price is on that sign. So the whole point of your parking space is just take out all the unknowns. You know exactly, before you leave the house, you know exactly where you're going to drive to, rather than having a vague area. You drive straight to the space. You know exactly how much it's going to cost. You know you can stay for the duration of your journey, and you know you'll definitely get a space there as well. So yeah, that's the idea of it.
And this is where things get really interesting for me, because I think I read about you guys in a newspaper over here in the UK, where it said that homeowners could make over £2,200 a year just by renting out their driveway. I mean, can you tell me more about that? And also the cities with the highest earnings.
Yeah, it's actually quite good timing, because we just released a league table of the top 50 towns and cities in the UK based on how much homeowners can earn from their space. So yeah, I guess as you'd expect, London was top, earning approximately £2,200 a year. Does vary quite a lot. So obviously central London, you're getting people who earn £20 a day upwards, which is £6,000 a year. And then further outside of London, the price falls. But outside of London, so we've got, in second place there was Brighton, with people earning £1,800 a year, approximately £150 a month. Third place was Leeds. Then you had Bristol, Oxford, Glasgow, Liverpool, and and to be honest, it goes right the way down. So they're around. They're around approximately 25 towns and cities in the UK where the average earnings are £1,000 or more over the course of a year. Yeah, and even obviously smaller places like Barnsley, Swansea, and Oldham are still decent amounts, around £700 a year. Wow. From an empty space.
And of course, the success of any solution is going to be determined by adoption. So I'm curious, have you had much interest from both renters and motorists?
Now, definitely. Now there's a huge amount. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, we were really helped actually by Airbnb a few years ago when it came over to the UK and suddenly became a household name. It became a lot easier explaining the concept. Before, people would ask, what do you do? And we're like, well, you sort of rent a driveway. Those were the days when we only had driveways on the site, and it was considered quite a strange concept. Whereas now it's really simple. It's Airbnb for parking, and people get it. If I'm going to rent out my spare room, where a stranger's actually roaming around in my house, like why wouldn't I rent out a parking space which is outside? They can just come and go without interfering with themselves or what they're doing on that day. So. But yeah, in the early days, it's tough. Like with a marketplace solution like what we've got, you always get that chicken and egg issue where if you have parking spaces but no drivers, then the parking space owners lose interest pretty quickly. And then vice versa, if you have drivers but with no parking spaces, those drivers don't come back again if they don't find a space. So it's pretty difficult in the early days, kind of trying to get the enough traction in a specific area just to make the website work, and then it gets easier over time.
So if we have somebody listening to this podcast now and they're driving somewhere through the UK, listening to us on something like Stitcher, and they're looking at somewhere or they're struggling to find a car parking space, and they think, okay, maybe this is the universe telling me I need to have a look at this solution. Can you just talk them through how to get the most out of it? So assuming they're going to download the app, and then what happens from there? Yeah,
exactly. So, I mean, you can do it, obviously, you're out and about, you can do it on the mobile website. And if you're at home, you can do it on the desktop, but I definitely recommend downloading either the obviously iOS or Android app, whichever one you've got. It's miles quicker and it's really easy to book. Yes, and to be honest, as soon as you download it, you can just do a search. You can, even if you're in the area, you can just click search around where I am. Make sure you enter the correct arrival and departure times and add on a bit extra as well, because usually the price that's quoted is a 24-hour price once you get beyond a certain number of hours. So you may as well just add on some extra time for yourself in case you're late back to your car. You find a space, you book and pay for it straight away, entering your vehicle registration just before booking. And then straight after booking, you receive the the directions to the space within the app, and there's nothing more to do from there. So you then just follow the instructions, park. If there's a PIN code to enter the car park, you'll be provided with your own unique PIN code. Often they're open access car parks, so your vehicle registration goes straight into the enforcement cameras, which means that you won't receive a ticket. Yeah, and the idea is very much there's nothing like printing off or needing to speak to the space owner. We don't do any of that, so it's just very much search, book, and then park.
And presumably for anybody that's considering renting their space, if they live near a city or maybe a train station or metro stop or something like that, and they're thinking this is a good opportunity for them to make a little bit of cash, is there just a renting section on the website and app?
There is, yeah. We still actually do the renting section through the mobile website, but it's still quick to register. So if you download the app, load up the app, you'll go straight through to the link to list your space, and it'll take you through. It almost looks like you're on the app, but you're actually on the mobile site. And similarly, if you register on the desktop, you register, and then when you log in, you've got your own dedicated rental section, which is kept separate to the account area if you're a driver. So then all the messaging is tailored towards, after you register, entering your bank details or PayPal email address so you can get paid and price recommendations and so on.
And what kind of feedback have you received from both parties, both the renters and the people parking there? And has that feedback made you evolve the service, or do you even get to hear about feedback?
Yeah, we're quite big on feedback actually. So we're on Trustpilot, where we've got over 25,000 reviews, and it provides it's really good internally just to drive the customer service team and ensure that we're always improving. So every time we get any kind of feedback in terms of improvements that could have been made, something didn't quite go according to plan, that's flagged to our quality control team, and we go in there and we make sure that experience never happens again. So yeah, that's resulted in 25,000 reviews. We've got rated excellent. So that's we're really big on the feedback side. But yeah, in terms of general feedback, drivers are the biggest thing from drivers is like, God, that was easy. Like if I had to park, I'd have been turning up, driving around, say if they're going to an event, for example, at Wembley, I've been driving round and round in circles and ended up paying a fortune. Whereas actually I just drove there and saved a fortune compared to driving up. And on the space owner side, it's very much I should have done this earlier. Yeah. I think the biggest thing that holds space owners back is they just think it's going to be a hassle, and they're like, it's that kind of thing that you'll get round to tomorrow. I'll register my space tomorrow, because you think it's going to be an effort, but actually it takes a couple of minutes. And then from then onwards, all you have to do is if you have, say, a key fob and you live in a block of flats and you need to provide the key fob to someone who's rents your space, say on a monthly basis, because I'd always then rent it out on a monthly basis. Your only job after registering is just to meet the driver once, give them the key fob, and then that's it. And then you're earning £100 or so a month until the end of the rental.
For any other startup founders that are listening that are inspired by you going out there and solving a problem with mobile technology, what are the biggest challenges that you've had since launching?
Well, I say in terms of specifically for the business, it would be the supply of parking spaces. So I guess the downside of our type of business is that you're really relying on, we're not producing a product in the factory, which everything's under our control, and we have the product and we can just go out there and sell it. We have to onboard parking spaces. Now, before launching, our growth strategy was really simple. It was approach all the car park operators. We know where there are empty car parks, say to them, look, you've got loads of empty spaces, put them on the website and we'll send you lots of additional revenue that you never had before. Now, we thought it was a no-brainer, but they then turned around and said, actually, no, we're happy with how the market currently is. We don't want the online channel to take off. So we're not giving you any spaces. And that's how we ended up going down the private route of bringing on board all the private individual driveways, underground parking spaces. And then as traction was built there, then slowly we managed to get some operators on board, and then those operators then start to see the benefits. But yeah, in terms of individual business-wise, it was really difficult to get the parking spaces, and that's still the biggest thing that holds back our growth. The more space, if we get spaces on in good areas, they will be booked. There are a huge number of drivers out there looking to park. And then in terms of a wider one, the second biggest challenge is probably the fundraising side. One, it is very time consuming. So we're currently going through a fundraise round now. it just takes a lot of time putting together documents. It obviously takes you away from the business and actually growing it. It can be a little frustrating when you think all the time I'm putting into the fundraising side could go towards growing the business and actually creating value rather than meeting with loads and loads of different investors and trying to raise funds that way. So I say, fundraising side is always a challenging one as well.
Now, you did mention growth strategy a moment ago. So I've got to ask, are there any other opportunities you're exploring? Are you going to franchise, maybe go further into Europe or the US and beyond? Or is it firmly about just serving the UK market right now?
I wouldn't rule out going abroad. So we looked at definitely not the US. I think the US is a bit of a graveyard for businesses, and on our side, there's two big companies over in the US currently battling it out, going through huge investment rounds of raising tens of millions of dollars. And the last thing we want to do is end up in the middle of that. If we did go abroad, we'd be looking at, say, Ireland and Australia, UK-speaking countries, smaller, where we can kind of really target it based on cities. But electric vehicle charging is the huge opportunity for us. In the future, all our customers who are currently booking parking will be driving electric vehicles. Now, in terms of the foundations of the business, we have the parking spaces. We know that where they're empty, so we know where electric charge points can be installed. We've got, obviously, the audience of drivers. And on top of that, we've got all the integrations with the parking enforcement companies, which means that when you install a electric charge point and you drive customers there, they're not going to receive tickets because you've done the integrations already, and those integrations aren't always open to other companies. So we've got all the foundations in place. So it's only logical that in the future and potentially near future, we're looking at how do we turn what we've got now in your parking space into not just a parking platform, but also if you want to add on electric vehicle charging, we can do that.
And for other startup founders listening, what are the biggest lessons that you've learned on your startup journey that maybe you could pass on to other startup founders, or something that maybe you wish that you'd learnt back when you first started? Firstly,
I'd say patience is a big thing. So when I was younger, before starting out, you hear the stories in the media of someone starts a company and then 2 years later it's worth $1 billion and everything is incredibly quick. And but actually, the reality is that those that you hear that in the media because those are the anomalies, those are the outliers. Actually, patience is a really big thing, and we've noticed it throughout from our side. When I did our forecast before the angel fundraise back in 2014, the forecast would have been off the charts by this point. And actually, just having the patience to stick at a model that you know works over time, it's surprising the traction that you can generate. But it's we struggled as well in the early days in terms of our initial investors struggled on the patience side. They expected it to be really big within 6 to 12 months following the investment, and it's just something that always goes back. And if you just keep on doing the right things, have a good model that makes sense, then you can sort of look back after a few years and think, actually, we've grown a lot more than I kind of realized throughout that time. And then I guess a couple of other ones would be, I'd always now look to try and find a co-founder if possible. It's not an easy thing to find because you almost end up speaking to a co-founder more than your actual partner. But if you can find a co-founder, it's definitely worth doing. It would be quite, I think it'd be quite lonely just trying to start a business and scale a business on your own. If you're looking to really scale the business, obviously it's different if it's a lifestyle one, but with all the challenges that you come up against every single day, it'd be difficult if you didn't have someone else there. And then thirdly, if you're raising investment, I wouldn't make sure you spend the money on getting the legals correct. So recently I read a book by some of the listeners might know the founder of Moz, Rand Fishkin. Yeah. The book's called Lost and Founder, and it just talks about how the venture capital world is not always how it's seen from the outside. When you're on the inside, there are a lot of investors there who are ready to take the company and start running the company from founders when they get a chance. And I'd always make sure that you lock down the legal side and get a good lawyer when you're going through an investment round, it's worth spending that extra money to make sure that you're protected if you guys end up not getting on in the future.
So for any UK drivers listening, or equally UK homeowners and international listeners are just curious about what you've created here and how you've gone about that, what's the best way of finding out more information about what you're doing here, how to download your app, your website and your social channels, along with how to contact your team if anyone's got any additional questions?
The best thing, first of all, is, I guess, to visit the website. So it's at YourParkingSpace.co.uk, or you can download the app. So that's iOS or Android, and you just search by Your Parking Space with no spaces in between the words. And then and then if you need any help anytime, just reach out to our customer service team. They're always available to help, and they can be contacted at support@yourparkingspace.co.uk.
Excellent. Well, the fact that you've already got 25,000 reviews show you that there's a real appetite for what you've created here. But I love how you're also looking towards the future and looking at park and charge, because like you said, in the future, all your present customers are going to be wanting to actually charge their car and not just park it. So it's great how you've created this success and you're building for the future. But more than anything, just a big thank you for coming on and sharing that story with me today.
Thanks a lot for having me on. It's much appreciated.
Charles originally founded the company back in, I think, the summer of 2006. And back then it was a pure driveway rental platform, built to allow individuals to boost their income by renting out their unused driveway. And outside of this podcast, I did hear the story from their origins in a back bedroom in 2006, all the way through to their relaunch in 2014, and how they got where they are today. And Charles is right in what he's saying there. Parking should be easier. And let's think about how you booked your last flight, rented a flat, booked a hotel, bought car insurance, or even found a date. Because we're seeing businesses like Skyscanner, Rightmove, Laterooms, MoneySupermarket and Match.com all removing pain points and a part of our everyday life now. And these online businesses have only been around for a few years. But despite being relatively new, they are brands that you recognise instantly. So I wish Your Parking Space luck on their mission to be that online business that springs to your mind next time you want to park your car, whether it's for a few hours near the shops or even for a few months near to your office. So many different uses for it there. But as for the idea, the concept itself, what do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, or get me on Twitter @NeilCHughes. And yes, Your Space is currently a UK-only app, but could you see Your Space or something similar working in your city too? Wherever you're located in the world, I want to hear your feedback, because I'm curious if this concept really does have universal appeal. It should have. In my head, it 100% has. But I'd love to know your personal experiences in the part of the world where you listen. And you can also pop by my website, techblogwriter.co.uk. You can have a look at what Charles looks like, along with 900 other guests on this daily tech podcast. So today has been a slightly bizarre day, which began with Justin Bieber asking Tom Cruise for a fight. Who knows what tomorrow will bring? But I invite you to come and join me and have a little chat about it around the virtual water cooler at Tech Blog Writer Towers. So a big thank you, as always, for taking the time to tune into this Daily Tech podcast, and I'll return tomorrow with more crazy stories and great interviews with tech leaders around how technology is transforming every industry, and indeed our world and lifestyle too. So thanks for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.